God, I gotta
enjoy.
catch up.
Guys, let's dive into our first topic today. It's brought to us by FanDuel. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets. FanDuel, the game moves fast. So can you, and we have a winning FanDuel ticket courtesy of our friend Darren Smith. He turned $25 into $643.85, in part thanks to a 16-leg single-game parlay between the Heat and the Orlando Magic yesterday. He took the over on everyone that scored. He hit all 16 legs, and he turned $25 into $643.85. If you have a winning ticket, make sure you send it in to us so we can feature it on the show, just like our friend Darren Smith.
I feel like Darren's hit a few of those.
Darren.
Darren does.
He does hit a few.
Does hit them. I'm sure he doesn't send us his losing tickets.
No, definitely not.
And there are probably a lot more losing tickets.
Probably
than winning
they add up, right?
If you hit like that, that probably would support a week of losses.
At least if you're only betting $5.
What was that? 25. Yeah,
Oh,
25.
right, yeah.
So,
25.
If you bet 10 of those in a week and you lose 10 of those, and I'm sure he bets. I would imagine he bets a couple a night.
Oh yeah, sure.
Do you like to play the big parlays, right?
Yeah.
Do you have a bet every night? Usually.
I didn't last night.
Okay, so you're not an every nighter.
I'm trying not to be. I'm trying to be a little bit less of an every nighter.
Do you, in general, do you track your wins and losses or no?
We don't talk about that, Jay.
Well, Dustin will save you here, man.
Jay's getting into touchy subjects.
No, the only thing I'm curious about is I have friends that are way more involved than you.
Yeah, I'm not a good gambler, dude. I'm not a good gambler.
And I ask them constantly, like, do you track it? And the ones that say, no, I don't track it, but I'm way up.
Yeah, baloney.
But the ones that tell me they track it, truthfully tell me, they're like, yeah, no, I'm down for the year.
Yeah, no, these apps now track everything for you, which is it's very humbling.
It's good or bad.
It's not like back in the day where, I was given $20 to the bookie in 1991 or whatever.
Allegedly. You were.
Allegedly.
I mean, there's no proof of that.
There's no proof of that?
There's no proof.
Well, I never actually gave it to the bookie.
I mean, we don't want to admit to illegal activity.
Well, but I mean,
we're past the statute of limitations.
Yeah, we probably are. Statute of limitations
for gambling, I think, is long.
I think that what we always say, and we always drive this home, is if you do it, just do it.
Be smart about
responsibly.
It. Don't go over your.
And you know what? Look, if you have the means and you can lose it, and it's no skin off your back, and you're not stealing the rent, then have fun. It's a form of entertainment.
Not everybody.
Just be careful. Be careful.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, guys. Let's dive in. When I came up with this topic, it's something that's kind of been popped up around, and it's circulated social media. I didn't know G. Bush was going to be off today, and this kind of changes the conversation.
Is he okay, by the way? Is he sick?
Yeah, he just needed a day off to take care of some stuff after last week. He'll be back tomorrow perfectly fine.
Very good.
But the question I wanted to ask was, we have seen Shedeur improve every game he's played this season. Came in against Baltimore, shaky. Came in against Vegas, had some solid numbers. They won the game, came in against San Francisco. You saw some more progress than obviously against Tennessee. His best game yet. With that development, and you can see the linear development here, how much credit, if any, do you give Kevin Stefanski for his part in Shedeur's development? Alex Wright yesterday, or I guess on Monday, was asked what he's seen between Stefanski and Shedeur, and this is exactly what Alex Wright said about their relationship. He said, quote, he's always, and he being Shedeur, he's always the happy-go-lucky person in the locker room. When I come into the facility, I see him in the office every day with Stefanski. He's a poised rookie. We're going to get behind him. Other players have said that they've seen Stefanski and Shedeur watching film every morning, even before Shedeur necessarily got the starting nod. So, Dustin, I'll start with you on this one.
Yeah.
How much credit does, if any, Stefanski deserve for the development over the last couple of weeks and really the entire season of Shedeur Sanders?
I think he gets some credit. He works with the quarterbacks all the time. He's not calling the plays on game day, but he's a big part of the process throughout the week. I mean, I think the head coach and Tommy Rees, obviously got to be on the same page with what they're going into the game with. You're going to spend – listen, Stefanski still wants to win these games, whether he's going to be here or not. I mean, he's a professional, and he obviously cares about his players, and he's going to work with Shedeur as much as he possibly can. And Shedeur's a likable guy. I think he's a little immature, just from he's a kid at heart. You know what I mean? I don't think he's a bad pro or doesn't take things seriously. I think he does. I think Stefanski deserves absolutely some credit for Shedeur's progression here. Now it's been a smaller sample size, and we want to see more. and we're going to see a lot more, this week as they face a really talented team in Chicago. But I think you give him some credit. How much? I mean, no one can say like he deserves all the credit or half the credit or whatever, but he's a big part of it.
I mean, it's a possible question to answer. Yeah. Have we ever asked this question before about a quarterback?
Probably not.
Right? I mean, it's like we're asking questions involving Shedeur that we don't ask with any other player. It's weird. So does he get credit? I guess you give him a little. I mean,
if you like Stefanski, you're going to give him credit. If you don't like Stefanski, you're not going to give him credit.
The thing is,
you're in your camp.
Right.
Yeah.
The thing is, if we're going to blame Stefanski
that's where I was
when the quarterbacks don't do well and say he hasn't developed them, then he's got to get a level of credit. But, of course, if you give him any credit, then people are going to get all worked up and say, well, why are you taking away credit from Shedeur? So I don't know what the truth is. I give him a little bit of credit. I mean, he's his coach. I give him the same amount of credit and blame that I would give him for any other quarterback on his team. When the quarterbacks suck, it's probably not much his fault. And when the quarterbacks are good, it's probably not that much him. I think the players play. I think the coach's effect on how good a player is, to me, is overrated, in my opinion. Now, you know better than me because you played. I've just always thought it was generally overrated because, as I've always believed, most coaches are just fine, and they're good or bad based on the talent. I think there are some coaches that, like Sean McVay and a couple of others, who stand out and they're great and do make a difference. And a few suck on the bottom end, and most, like Kevin Stefanski, depend on their talent.
I would say this much. I think that for a young player, a rookie especially, who's playing quarterback, a coach can have a bigger impact because he's impressionable. Just think about our kids, right? I mean, your kids are starting to grow up. Your kids are older, Jay, and I've got a teenage daughter. I think, when she was a lot younger, I made a much more of an impact on her.
Sure.
Now she's older. So I can't. There's only so much I can do.
Right.
Like if it was Joe Flacco in the room, Stefanski can only help him so much. But I think for a guy like Shedeur Sanders, who's so young, I think that the impact he can have on molding him is actually pretty big.
But isn't Tommy Reese spending more time with him probably than Kevin Stefanski is?
That I can't answer. I'm not in the
that's
building.
why it's hard.
Yeah.
It's like
but I do think that Stefanski he still has such a huge role in this offense. He didn't just say, Tommy, take it.
Right,
and he's like out shooting hoops in the back.
I liked your kids analogy.
Yeah.
When our kids are young, we're their compass.
Right.
They look to us for everything as examples. How do we compose ourselves in public? How do we interact with other people? And they're constantly looking and absorbing. And then you said it appropriately. My kids are in their early 30s. I'd like to think that the cake is baked. It's done. They still probably
laid that foundation years
it's
ago.
Done. It's in the early formative years, and that's where Shedeur Sanders is right now on his career arc. He's in the early formative years. Did Joe Flacco blossom here because No, he had more than a dozen years in the NFL of experience to fall back on. Yeah. Same with Jameis. Jameis had a body of work. He knew what he was looking at when he was looking at NFL defenses. I tend to agree with you, Bull, on the impact that coaches have on players in general. Like if you're a linebacker, how much is the coach really helping you? You're a linebacker, you read and react. How fast do you see things, process things, and get to the spot? So that is more reactive. But I do disagree with that when it comes to quarterbacks. I think more than any other position in sports, the position of quarterback is more cerebral, it's more diagnostic, there's a lot of reaction to it, but the reaction is based on the early steps in the process, which is diagnostic. What am I looking at? Where will my guy be open? How do I throw said player open? There's a lot of nuance to it. So I would give him, Stefanski, as much credit as I would give him blame for the lack of Dillon Gabriel showing us anything. Dillon Gabriel showed us not much at all, but while he was competing at the highest level in college, he proved to be a very competent quarterback that could handle that. Now, the college game, as you know, is drastically different than the NFL game. And one of the big knocks on the college game over the last decade plus probably has been they are not getting quarterbacks ready to run with no training wheels. Everything is figured out for them. Everything. And, how many times have we seen quarterbacks come up to the line, get under center, look. He's not doing the reading. The offensive coordinator is. He's stepping away. He's looking around. He's looking to the sidelines. They're flashing in the new play. Well, you're not doing your quarterback any favor when he gets to the next level if you're doing the diagnostic work. That's what separates quarterbacks at the NFL level. And so I do think there should be some credit given to Kevin Stefanski. How much? Like you said, there's no way to measure this.
Right.
Is he 22% responsible and it's 78% Shedeur? Who knows? Right. But if you're going to blame him for Dillon Gabriel's lack of progress, then you also have to credit him the same amount for Shedeur Sanders' progress.
I wouldn't even say Stefanski. I would say the coaching
staff, right? Because Tommy Rees probably
and there's a quarterback coach, and it's like everybody's working together. Coaches are trying to help players.
Sure,
obviously
that's his job.
But clearly, Shedeur Sanders deserves the majority of credit, as does every other player for their success,
especially at quarterback,
or their lack of success.
Yeah, you're out there on your own, man.
Yep,
you're on an island, and there's a reason they all run to the sidelines and look at the tablet. Okay, what did I miss?
Yeah.
And then they've got an extra set of eyes or two in offensive coordinator, quarterback, even head coach, looking at the tablet as well, saying, well, you saw the too high safety, but you didn't see the movement before the snap where they completely shifted everything. Yeah. In the NFL, it's all about pre-snap looks and adjusting as the ball is snapped.
Yep.
You see six guys at the line of scrimmage, they're showing blitz. The ball is snapped, and sometimes two of those guys drop back into coverage.
All the time.
It's part of the deal.
Disguise is one of the biggest things you have to do.
Yeah, you have to.
As a defensive coordinator, you're trying to, especially versus a young quarterback.
How hard was that for you as a corner, making those adjustments? Was there a big adjustment from the college game to the pro game, even for you, and showing what you were going to do?
It was big for me, especially as a rookie, because they moved me from corner to safety, a position I didn't really play much in college, where I had to then all of a sudden go from, everyone told me what to do. I got a hand signal, I know if it were man or zone or what have you, to now I'm either, we're showing a two-shell look or we're doing an inverted look. And I had to then maybe I was inverted. Then we had to bail out of that the last second for the snap.
Sure.
After the snap, So
I imagine it'd be a huge adjustment.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of thinking, and when you think, you play very slow.
Yeah,
your brain is processing.
It starts to. It looks natural when it feels natural for the player, when they're no longer going through the motions of all of and it sometimes looks jaded and slow. But I can already tell. I think the biggest difference in Shedeur from week 1 to week 4 now, in terms of his playing, you've watched him week to week. You've watched his clock speed up, and you've seen that he's no longer going on the college clock. He is now adjusting to the NFL clock, and even the way he decides, every quarterback makes the decision. There's nothing there. I gotta go. Those decisions for Shedeur Sanders have gotten better and faster. He's no longer retreating and running south. He's now using his athleticism to break tackles and to escape the pocket and try to make a play on the other side of that. And that part of it has been really, really fun to watch. And if he can continue to speed up that clock and get on the right second and the right time, I think the sky's the limit for him here.
Sky's the limit may be high at this.
You don't think
stage.
he could be a franchise quarterback here yet?
I think after 4 games.
Well, no, I said if it continues.
Yeah,
he did it against a one-win team.
What's continuing mean? Like
I need to see growth week to week.
Yeah, you think you can see enough this year to know?
To be determined. I've said I need all 4 games. I need to watch all 4 games because these defenses aren't great. The teams are pretty good, but the defenses are not elite defenses that he's. Because I think the Bears have the best defense of what
I was going to say the Bears.
They take the ball away from you.
They take the ball away,
and that is
they
elite.
give up plenty of yards.
They do.
Yeah,
but because of their turnovers, it makes their overall numbers on defense look better. They're just limiting offensive possessions because they're taking them away from the opponent. But none of these defenses would be considered elite or top flight NFL defenses right now. That's why I expect him to continue to produce, continue to show improvement. And look, he's going to make he's forcing the Browns to make a very, very difficult decision.
Yeah. I don't think 7 games on any player in any position, for sure what that player is.
Can you say that then about Dillon Gabriel?
Yes. I don't think he's good.
Right.
But I can't tell for sure.
Okay.
It's not enough games.
Because basically, to me, the general the opinion of Dylan Gabriel is in.
Yeah, I mean, you could have a strong lean,
right? Yeah,
but you can't say with 100%.
Well, no, you can't because look, we watched Sam Darnold for 3 years, and say this guy is not it.
Right. Dimes.
And the last 2 years, he's been like a Pro Bowl player, and so I don't know what that number is. I was talking with a former pro earlier this week, and I asked him that. I said, "What is the good sample size?" And he goes, "I'll tell you this, it gets longer every year." We buried guys after 1, 2, and 3 seasons that are now resurrected and leading the league.
I don't know, but some of those guys have, like Geno, has fallen on his face.
Well, now Geno's a little different story. Geno's older in age.
People got to stop putting Baker in that category.
I agree with that.
He doesn't count.
I agree with that.
Daniel Jones is hurt, so he was playing well, but his play was tailing off.
He's
in the last
more in
couple
that
weeks.
Sam Darnold camp than Baker was. Baker had success in the league as a young player.
Yeah, Baker is not an example.
And he was a number 1 overall draft pick. Like, I know Sam Darnold went high in the draft too, but when you watch a guy for 3 years look like he's got 2 left feet,
Darnold,
you give up on the guy.
Darnold, Geno, and Daniel Jones, they're in that category.
Yeah, absolutely,
now,
they are.
Geno Smith, to me, I don't even sure if he's a starting quarterback anymore.
Doesn't look like.
No, but he had a 5-year run,
right?
After post New York,
yes,
where he was a very serviceable.
So that's it.
So I don't know. I mean, it is tough, but I think what he's done, and I had someone remind me yesterday. We were having a conversation about it, and I was maybe a little too overzealous on Shedeur, as I may be here, because you've looked at me and said, "Really? Do we know that?" Maybe we don't. And yesterday, the discussion that I was having, the person said, "I watched you Monday, and I watched the main point that you made was that all of this effort, all of this buzz around Shedeur came in a loss at home to a 1-win team." And I'm like, oh, yeah.
You still have to keep some perspective on it.
Yeah, he did it, but it shows he can do it at the NFL level against really bad teams.
Those guys get paid, too.
They get paid. Well, now the question is, can he do it against better defense?
But here's the thing. I don't accept this. Well, he did it against the Titans. First of all, it's the NFL. Yeah. This is not college.
No, I know, but it'd be more impressive if he did it against the Eagles.
But he didn't do it against FAU.
Guys, he's playing with bad talent.
He is.
He is. Outside of the Titans, they probably have the worst talent around the quarterback on the Browns. So, I mean, you've been saying that's the worst wide receiving core you've ever seen.
And the Titans are right there with us.
Right. The Titans are the only team with worst talent.
You know the point I don't think we made strong enough Monday? Because it is Shedeur Mania, and I get that.
Yeah.
But I really think the takeaway from Sunday was, and we touched on it, but it was the defense. Like, we lost that game for one reason. The defense allowed 29 points to an awful, awful offense, and they gave up 175 yards rushing or whatever it was, as we were ears pinned back chasing a quarterback that didn't even have the ball in his hand.
Well, think about
that.
This.
I think was the headline from Sunday.
Again, the defense was terrible.
Awful.
The running game was non-existent, and the special teams is pretty much always awful.
They were terrible.
So Shedeur
we get a punt blocked.
I know we do. How does that happen?
Never get blocked. I feel like you can go a season and teams never get a punt blocked.
If the special
Most teams don't have one blocked in a season.
If the special teams was adequate and the defense, which has been good all year, just played an average game, the Browns would have won this easily.
It's a win.
So I'm not going to take because they lost. I'm not going to take too much away from Shedeur Sanders. Because he did more than enough to win that game. More than enough.
He did.
So the bottom line to me is...
the defense cost the Browns the win.
Are we going to know for sure about Shedeur Sanders by the end of this year? Probably not. And you wouldn't know for sure about any quarterback. But what we can do is, right now we feel like Dylan Gabriel's hopeless, right? None of us think he's going to be a franchise quarterback. Okay?
I don't see it.
But we all thought that way going in, to be fair.
Sure, he's a third-round pick.
Nothing he's done has changed our mind.
Nothing.
Right? Whereas... if you're the Browns, first of all, to me, again, I'm not an expert on college quarterbacks, but I think I know enough at this point. I am definitely not convinced that there's a quarterback coming into this draft that is definitely going to be better than Shedeur Sanders.
What do you think of Mendoza?
I think Mendoza is a really good player. I just don't. I shouldn't say that. I mean, because I watched Saturday night, and I think he faced the toughest defense so far. And he looked all right. And he made some plays when he had to make the plays, and they won the game, and he gets all the credit for that. Something's there. I don't know. Maybe he's so skinny and frail.
You know,
maybe it's his spastic interviews after
He's
the
a
games.
weirdo.
He's
He's going to turn off some teammates.
You know what impressed me was how he bounced back from that opening hit.
Yeah,
I mean, that knocks a lot of quarterbacks out for the night.
Well, and the other thing about that too is he talked about this yesterday. Like he said it was a clean hit, loved it.
Yeah,
you know, and like he's like,
and it was a clean hit.
He's like, I just took me a minute. I had to wake up and we go. He's like, this is football.
And when he had to make throws downfield late in the game, he made them. Yeah, all of them.
His throw to what's his name, Becker,
Becker, I think.
Yeah, that was phenomenal.
Well, by the way, I think he was exposing the weak link on that defense.
Yeah, but let's face it. Fernando Mendoza and Julian Sayin are playing with way better talent than he played with in college. Besides Travis Hunter, the rest of the offense in Colorado was pretty bad. And the thing is, are you convinced Mendoza's going to be a better player in the NFL than Shedeur?
At this point, I can't say that.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't think anybody can.
If Shedeur shows you enough, even if you're not sure at the end of the season, as long as you're like, I think there's a chance Shedeur's the franchise quarterback, then I would probably stay with him and draft the other guys. Unless you're absolutely sure that one of these quarterbacks coming out is better, I would not draft a quarterback. And for me, I'm definitely not convinced of that.
Honestly, man, for the most part, I don't know that I can say. There have been a lot of great quarterbacks drafted. I mean, Josh Allen, Lamar, all these guys have been good players. Mahomes. But, like, there hasn't been a player come out to me that's, like, surefire.
Not even Joe Burrow?
Since Andrew Luck. I thought Andrew Luck was the one. This is like 2012, I think, when he came out. And I was like, can't miss. Yeah. And there's nobody like that.
I felt that way about Joe Burrow.
Yeah. Maybe so.
I know felt that way about Burrow. But
either way, it's not every year.
Even Josh Allen and Lamar.
It's not every 5 years.
Yeah.
Look at last year's draft class.
Thing about Lamar and Josh Allen, they weren't sensational right off the bat.
Josh Allen completed like 56% of his passes at Wyoming.
He was mediocre at best his first year in the NFL.
And he came in the league, and you're right. And people in Buffalo want to write him off.
That's right.
Well, it's the most important position in sports. I also think it's the most difficult position to actually assess. Guys have had careers blown to bits by making the wrong bet.
Because there's so many intangibles that go into it.
Yes.
That well beyond what you can see on the tape.
By the way, you guys weren't here yesterday, but Sean King said that he would move forward with Shedeur. And Sean was not a huge Shedeur guy coming into
I didn't think he was either.
He had him as a late first, early second round pick, not a top
I think the intoxicating part of that is if Shedeur can be the answer.
Oh, it's huge.
You solve multiple problems at once. Not just do you solve the most difficult position, but from a financial standpoint, you've got a 5th round draft pick as your starting quarterback.
Yeah. Right.
So it's not like it was a first round pick, which those deals can still be healthy 7 figures. He's got, what is his total contract value? $1.5 million for 3 years?
It's more than that.
It's a 4-year deal. I think it's like 2.5.
Well, it's the 4th year is the team option, right?
No, it's not a team option.
So it's locked for 4. That's another benefit if he's the right guy.
You'll pay him if he ends up being the guy. You'll pay him after year 3 and give him a new contract.
Sure, you will. Hell yeah,
you will.
For
3 years, you won't have to pay him anything.
Yeah, but I just remember when I looked at his numbers, I'm like, this guy's not making anything.
It's 4.6 over 4 years.
Okay,
so it's $1 million a year.
4.6.
Right, and a thing you didn't even mention that's massive. Now you don't have to worry about using that 4th, 5th, 6th. First-round pick,
right?
And you could draft Carnell Tate.
That's exactly right.
Name?
Jordan Tyson.
That's exactly right. And linemen and fill other holes.
And then you fill. Then in the late first round, early second round pick, you take 2 linemen.
Mm-hmm. That's why if he does play well for the next 4 games, it changes their team trajectory.
I know we got to move on, Mike, but think about this for a second. In a perfect world, Shedeur plays really well down the stretch. He's not going to be perfect. There's some ups and downs, but plays a lot more good than bad.
Proves that there's something there for next year.
You want to move forward with him.
Yeah.
And now you draft a wide receiver at the top of the draft. You take 2 offensive linemen, late first, early second. Let's get pie in the sky. Let's say all 3 of those guys hit. You had a good draft this past year. Let's say, now your offensive line, you're not going to fix the whole offensive line. You can't fix the whole line in 1 year.
Everybody's gone.
But maybe you can go from crap to adequate on the offensive line in 1 year. Now you got Tate, you got one of these top wide receivers in the draft, and you got Fannin, and you got Judkins, who's going to be better.
Yes.
And you already got the defense. If Shedeur Sanders is the guy, the turnaround can happen really quick.
It can. He can
Really quick.
accelerate this by
Now they
years.
got to get it right with these other picks, of course.
They do
to help him. But
and the first part of that is an unknown. I mean, he's got to play well the next 4 weeks.
Yep.
And then the other thing that you have to hope for, and you see this all the time, and I know Jaden Daniels has been out a lot this year. When he has been on the football field, he's looked nothing like the guy that we saw last year. Nothing.
No. Now
like
I think you could put that on for early in the season. I think when he's come back recently,
maybe
it's probably still remnants of all the injuries.
I just keep watching and waiting to see that same guy.
He hasn't been that guy.
He has not been there. And C.J. Stroud took a big step back in his second year.
C.J. seems to be swinging back up again.
Coming back up.
Yeah.
Trevor Lawrence is a guy that had early struggles. Then he found some success. Then he went back in the can, and now he's looking like a playoff quarterback again.
A lot of it comes down to the system.
Getting
in the right system.
Being in the right system, and I think he's got a good coach now.
These seasons are not linear, with the way guys perform. I mean, we're going to get wet. All of a sudden it's December, and the guys are playing in the snow, and it's cold, and it's windy.
And you're losing players to
injury. It's a game of attrition. By the end of the season, you may not have your top 2 wide receivers.
Sure.
Just because a guy has a rough 3 games or a month or something doesn't mean the guy's tailing off. I mean, the Kansas City Chiefs can't win a game right now.
No, and they're probably not going to make the playoffs. I think the biggest takeaway for me is Shedeur's play Sunday turned the last 4 games of the season into something that I really want to watch.
100%.
For sure.
Not just for Myles Garrett.
Must see TV.
Now I want to see, what do we have with Shedeur? How real is this? Is this sustainable? And it's given us a reason to care about the last 4 games.
It's the first time I've been intrigued by the Browns in December when they didn't have the possibility of the playoffs.
Yeah, because usually what are you watching for?
Yeah.